Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow and I am back with a new video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read on religion and the Cabal. So if this sounds good to you, please stick around, and if not, I'll catch you at another video. So first and foremost, before we get into it, this is going to be my most controversial video. So a few points to keep in mind. First and foremost, I am not attacking any personal opinion. I am not attacking you personally, your religion, your beliefs, your religious affiliation, or anything of that nature. As it is with all of my videos, it's a combination of channeled information as well as personal opinion. I will keep my personal opinions to a very, very bare minimum, except at the end. Everything else up until then will be channeled, and I will be sure to share with you what is my own personal opinion and what is channeled. Now, another thing to keep in mind is the fact that because I only work with God's pure energy, any and all information that comes in is not, it's not with ill intent or bad energy or bad intention. It is all high vibration. So again, understand that because it is a high vibration energy that I am connecting to with high vibration energies and intentions, it is not going to be where I'm saying, I'm not going to be speaking out negatively against any particular religion. I will, however, be speaking about all religions, my own included, okay? Now, because of the intentionality in which I channel the information, which is positive, high vibes, any and all comments, allow them to be high vibration as well. First and foremost, we're too high vibration on this channel to be anything other than. But if there is any comment that is directed towards me or anybody else that has made a comment that you do not like, and it is not respectful, it will be deleted. Lastly, because this is going to be a very, very potentially triggering video, please consider not watching it if you think that you will be triggered. Otherwise, you are assuming responsibility for your own feelings as they pertain to this video, and do not come yelling at me if you do not like the way that this video has made you feel. You have been forewarned in advance. It is potentially triggering. Now, let's get in. All right, so why did I first of all choose to do a video on religion and the Cabal, right? Why not just religion? I've already kind of spoken about the Cabal. Why am I tying the two together? This is my own personal opinion, what I'm about to share, okay? Anything that's my own personal opinion, I will state in advance, this is my opinion and not channeled. This is my own personal opinion, that all religions, every single one, have been corrupted by the Cabal in one way, shape, or form. And how have they been corrupted? Through any number of means, such as the intentional withdrawing of information in religious texts, the intentional misrepresentation of certain things that have happened throughout history, or the misrepresentation of things of a religiously oriented nature through not just people in religion, but in the way that religion is portrayed to us through popular culture by members of the Cabal. Now, that is, yes, again, first and foremost, my personal opinion. There are certain things that came through to me as notable, that is channeled, and I will be speaking about that. But for me to go back and to look at every single historical thing as it relates to religion is simply not possible. I have spent more time than I even want to share channeling this information, and also my guides the last few nights, holy fucking hell, they have not allowed me to sleep, because every time I would lay down and I was, just getting into like the perfect sleep position, they would be chattering in my ears like, no, Faye, you gotta, and this, like, you would think, first of all, that I don't take any time to meditate, that there was not like another time that they could come into me. No, they very intentionally wanted to come into me as I was getting ready to sleep, probably because my resistance was really, really lowered at that point, and I was able to receive information that maybe I would not have otherwise been open to receiving. I want to put this to rest. I hope that I will do the best of my abilities to share the information that has come into me. But I want to just get this information out in a loving, kind, and compassionate way so that I will be plagued no longer in my restful hours, and I can move on with my life and be well rested hereafter. Okay? So, yes, so they are very, very much intertwined, all of our religions and the corruption by the Cabal. They are intrinsic, and that's why I can't talk about religion without talking about the Cabal. Anything derogatory that I say about religion is going to be about the Cabal and not about the religion per se. Okay, so how did the Cabal first become involved with religion? This is channeled. This is what was shown to me. The Cabal first became involved with religion shortly after the Jews left Egypt and had built the golden calf. So a little history lesson. I'm going to take you back in time. However many thousands of years ago, and it's very notable timing actually because we're near Passover right now, which is when this whole kind of thing had launched, which is that there were 10 plagues that Moses had brought down upon the Egyptians and down upon Pharaoh for not releasing the Jews from servitude and slavery to him. And there was magic involved. And then it was finally after the accumulation of all 10 plagues that Pharaoh acquiesced and he had released the Jews. And then even thereafter, after they had been released, Pharaoh and the Egyptians had actually pursued the Jews, and that was when God had split the sea so that the Jews could escape and that the Egyptians would drown in their pursuit. And what there happened thereafter, that was a lot of theirs in one sentence, but was that Moses had gone up to a mountaintop to receive the 10 commandments from God. And there was some confusion about when the 40 days and 40 nights that he was going to be gone to receive this. There was some confusion around that. Like, was it the day he left, or was it like starting the day after he left? So what ended up happening was that part of the Jews that had chosen to part of the Jews that had chosen to leave Egypt felt abandoned by God. Because here's the thing, even though there were so many miracles that they had seen, even though there was the experience of the sea being split so that they could safely get to the other side, the members of the Jews that were promoting this idea of the golden calf were energetically stuck in a state of fight or flight. And fight or flight is where basically your nervous system is dysregulated. And where you have, let's say, undergone a trauma, and in your way of trying to process it, because you have been hijacked, your nervous system has been hijacked, you're either having this experience of a lot of adrenaline and that causes you to want to fight, or you want to flee. So hence fight or flight. And even though, again, there were so many miracles that had been observed, part of these Jews were stuck energetically in fight or flight, and they felt abandoned by God because, oh my God, they had just left their home. And not all the Jews actually chose to leave. I think they've said only 20% of the Jews chose to leave Egypt because the other 80% were quite assimilated and they actually didn't want to go. So the 20% that chose to leave, they were like, oh my God, we just left our home and now God has abandoned us. Moses was supposed to be down the mountain. Moses is not here. We have been abandoned and we cannot go back. We're screwed. Maybe that's not the exact terminology they used, but that was the way they felt, that they were screwed. Now, Imagine I'm going to give you a very, very interesting analogy that has nothing to do with religion, but it actually ties in. So imagine, if you will, there is a woman that is engaged to a man, and she has hitched all of her hopes and dreams and her future and her idealization about the way her life is supposed to go down. She has attached it to this man. And the man breaks off the engagement. So now you have a jilted ex-girlfriend. And it's not enough for the ex-girlfriend to mourn privately with her friends, but she wants to go about town and she wants to set the record straight. No, it is not me that was left. I called it off. I broke it. She wants to regain control of the narrative. He did not leave me. I left him. And what happened was very, very similar to where this group that became the Cabal felt abandoned by God, by this nebulous idea of God, because they can't see it, but nonetheless, they felt abandoned by God. So their way in trying to reframe their experience of this perceived abandonment was, we need a physical representation of God. God has abandoned us. We're going to reframe the narrative. We're going to build a God. Not build a bear, build a God. So what did they do? They went around to all of the women, or anyone who had gold and silver and jewels of any kind, and they built a golden calf out of it that was going to be their representation of God. So they deviated away from the faith-based or the higher vibration expression of religion, which is just like gravity. God, I can't see you, but I'm not floating off into space. So if gravity's got me, God's got me too, right? That's a higher expression of religion. They veered away from that towards the completely base, three-dimensional expression, which is, we can't see God, we are going to create God. We're going to build a God. That is the origin point of the Cabal, built in the remains of a group of people that had left their home and felt abandoned by God. And just like that jilted ex-girlfriend who wanted to reframe it so she was not the left one, I did the leaving. They were reframing their relationship with God, going to the base three-dimensional. It's not what I can, it's only what I can perceive. It's not faith-based at all. I need to see it to believe it. This has then, therefore, tainted everything that has to do with the Cabal. And I'm going to explain all of that. So yes, they stepped away from God for the lowest, densest vibration of what it means to be God, which is literally, if you think about it, idol worship. Here is a golden calf. It is a representation of God. So they have therefore then become consumed by their pursuit of anything that is of a three-dimensional, base, low vibration nature, because they have stepped away from God in its entirety. They are not faith-based. They are not attached to God. They are disconnected. And here, I'm going to use the example that I've used in a few of my other videos as well, but it really, really does a good job of tying it together, which is, imagine, if you will, you're outside in the garden and you're gardening. And you have your phone with you, and you have a solar-powered iPhone charger. So your phone is chilling in the garden with you, you're gardening, you're creating some things, and your phone is being charged through solar power. Imagine, if you will, God is the sun. So, when you are Team High Vibe, you are connected to God. And your connection is that solar-powered iPhone charger charging you always. But imagine, if you will, you're down in the basement and your phone has to charge, but you can't use a solar-powered iPhone charger because you're in the basement. So what are you going to do? You're going to seek alternative methods to connect with God. One of them being, if you will, I'm going to plug my phone into the socket in the wall to power it. This is very much the same way. They're disconnected from the solar power, again, solar being the representation of God here. So because they are completely disconnected, we're even going to take it a step further. We're going to say they are so stepped away that they are locked in the basement. They are so disconnected from God that they can't even leave the basement. So any way that they are trying to connect to God, or they're trying to give their iPhone juice, is through an alternative method. It's not faith-based, it's three-dimension based. And that has tainted the way in which they not only view God, but the way in which they view the entirety of the world. And here's why. Let's say, just like the golden calf was their representation of God. So then imagine, if you will, as the generations have kind of gone on, they're no longer seeing the golden calf, but they're seeing the material that made the golden calf. So what might those things be? Gold, silver, jewels, and then as more and more time goes on, what does that also turn into? Money. What else might it turn into? Valuable and priceless antiquities, valuable and priceless art, valuable and priceless religious representations, because it's anything that is three-dimensional and representation oriented. So this is also going to explain why the Cabal is obsessed, if you will, with this idea of depopulating the world. Because again, if you look at God as a finite resource, like I can't just go out and charge my phone in the sun because the sun is infinite, because God is infinite, but power, the actual power that comes out of a wall outlet, is finite. And everything else that is of a three-dimensional nature to them is also considered finite. So they are obsessed with depopulating the world because resources are finite. There is not an endless amount of money. There's not an endless amount of gold, silver, and priceless antiquities and jewelry and things of that nature. All of their resources, all of their connection to God, because that is the representation of God, is finite. So they are obsessed with, first of all, yes, depopulating the world. If there's less of us, there's more resources for them. Here's another example I've used that also ties in really, really well. Because you might be thinking, how much money? They have all the money in the world. It's not enough? No, it's not enough. And here's why. Imagine, if you will, a water bottle, but the water bottle has a leak in it, but the person who has the water bottle doesn't know that there's a leak in it. All they know is no matter how much water they're actually trying to put into the water bottle, they're not understanding it's leaking. They're just like, I just keep filling it up and there's just never enough. There's never enough water in here when I want to drink it. This is very much the same way. They don't understand that they have an internal hole. The hole that they have is their connection to the divine. So because they have that disconnection to the divine, they feel like no matter what they have, it's never enough. Because again, no matter what they have is their representation of God. And it's finite. They probably have more money than they can spend, or their heirs can spend, and all of their lineage can spend in several hundred lifetimes. It still doesn't feel enough, because they are disconnected from the divine. And when you create something to represent the divine, it's a low energetic frequency because it's of a three-dimensional nature, and therefore they themselves are also in a three-dimensional lower base nature. So we're already acknowledging that they stepped away from God because they felt abandoned by God. And they wanted to reframe their so-called perceived abandonment with, no, 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 we were not abandoned by God. We just don't believe in this nebulous idea of a God that you cannot see here. This is something that we can see. This is our God. So in their pursuit of, or a better way of saying this, in their lowering of their own internal vibration, they then became an energetic vibrational match for what, you may ask? Satan. Now, you might also be wondering, but Faye, is Satan also not a nebulous idea? Like, we don't necessarily see God, but do we see Satan? Great question. Here's the thing. Anything that is going to, if you will, summon Satan is of a three-dimensional nature because it is activity and action oriented in a different way. Because here's the thing, like if you're going to worship perhaps in your church or in your synagogue, you might need a prayer book. If you're going to your mosque, you need your prayer mat. Maybe when you're praying at home, you need your rosary or a prayer book, right? So there is some physical representation of our communing with God. However, the way in which one will commune with Satan is through there's a lot more action involved. And what I mean to say by that is you can't just go into like a dark space and be like, Satan, come to me now. It doesn't work that way. They actually need to do any set number of things in which they will summon Satan. And all of the things that they're going to do are of a base three-dimensional nature, such as sacrificing things to Satan or sacrificing people to Satan, such as black magic rituals. So all of those things are action-oriented, if you will, just like the building of the golden calf was action-oriented. And we may never see an expression of God in our day-to-day existence. However, when they actually summon Satan, they will see some sort of a representation of the energy of Satan through their activities to summon it. So that is why they are team dark side, because they have completely stepped away from God, and through their pursuit of anything of a three-dimensional nature, have lowered their vibration and therefore then become a vibrational match for the lowest, darkest, densest energy there is, which is Satan. And again, the way in which they will bring Satan down is through action-oriented things, just like the building of the golden calf. So I hope that I'm doing a good enough job in kind of like explaining how all of these things are connected, and nothing exists like in a vacuum. All of these things are in fact connected. Now I'm also going to say, because of their obsession with stuff and money, they then look at it this way. Every decision that they have made is driven by a connection to stuff and money. So what ventures have they gone into, or corporations have they then gone into, that is stuff and money orientated? Banking, all financial systems, jewelry, more than that, prisons, because look at it this way, prisons are actually privately owned, that's first and foremost. They're also dealing with a very, very dark, dense nature. You're dealing literally with criminals. Like if you are team high vibe, do you want to be like involved with prisons? It's an incongruent energetic match. So that is why they are also involved with the privately owned prison system. What else might they be involved with? Big Pharma. Because what is Big Pharma? Big Pharma is profit over people. It is again all about the accumulation of wealth. What else? Corporations, corporate America, entertainment, media, and yes, even religion. Okay, let's see what else I got for you guys. Now, I think I'm going to jump around a little bit actually, because I have a lot of notes, but I want to try to keep this concise. So despite them having, again, as I had shared, despite them having perhaps enough money to last them and all of their heirs, and their heirs, not heirs, their heirs, like their lineage, for several lifetimes, because they are disconnected from the divine, because they have no connection to God, that is then, if you will, a leak in them, and there is no amount of money that they will accumulate that will ever allow them to feel satiated by their accumulation. But here's the thing, because they still have more money than anyone can spend in any given lifetime, money has therefore lost all meaning to them. And I have shared this in more than one video. People who have no money and people who have all the money in the world, money, it's exactly the same to them. Because if you have no money, you can't afford to buy anything. And if you have all the money in the world, you can afford to buy anything. And both of those extremes lead to a complete disconnection from the worth and value of actual money, which is why they're also trying to eradicate the middle class, because the middle class are the only people that have some sense of an orientation to money. You want to create a completely chaotic society, you take away the meaning and value of any sense of money. Okay? So money has lost all meaning to them. And because they can therefore literally have anything in the world, boredom has ensued. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. So they're bored. They have endless amounts of money. They have the very, very best alcohol that money can buy. This then becomes a very dangerous combination. This was shown to me. This is channeled. So that, coupled with a rampant sense of entitlement, because they could literally buy a town, not just a person, they could buy a town, a state, a government, a monarchy, knowing therefore that you could own any of those things and you could do anything you wanted without any sense of reproach. That is a perfect recipe for some fucked up shit to occur. Because the more money you have, with the higher the sense of entitlement and the feeling of being above it all, and the more power you have, the more corrupt one will invariably become. So yes, if you have, in your pursuit of the truth and in falling down your own rabbit holes, if you have read about or heard about or been suspicious about there being hunting parties of a non-animal nature, they're true. If you have read about or believe there is satanic ritual abuse, it's true. They also will blackmail people for the fun of it. They will catch people in compromising situations just to blackmail them, or not even to blackmail them through the extortion of money, but they will catch people in compromising situations, so they will own them, and they will own their soul, if you will, to where that person now has to work for them. So it's an energetic corruption of a person's soul. And maybe some of the laws we actually have are designed that way to make certain things seem unreasonable and unjust, so that way they are crimes, so that way people will perpetrate these crimes. And then what do? You own those people that are maybe in government, but then you will corrupt their soul entirely by bringing them over to Team Dark Side. And what are we actually now seeing? This actually just popped into my mind right now. Again, it's like where we have the eradication of the middle class, we now also have the eradication of normal laws and normal consequences for breaking the law. So it's like, as we're ascending more and more, there is this very deliberate attempt on the part of the Cabal to energetically try to lower us by creating a very, very chaotic environment all around us. So it's like the reflection that you see in the world, it can actually sometimes even feel like the world is ending. It's actually the exposure of the things that have happened all along, but have been hidden. But it is playing out on the world stage with, it seems like, regular people getting swept up involved in it, because that's actually what's been happening all along. The Cabal has actually swept up seemingly innocent people along into their plans through an energetic corruption. And we are just seeing that play out on a large scale right now in the world, on the world stage. And then another thing that was shown to me, again, this is controversial, take what resonates, leave the rest behind, but was also shown to me is the transgender movement as it is today. And yes, I've done a video on this, but as it is today, where it is so exploded on the world stage, and it's like you can't speak out against it or you're going to be accused of being transphobic, that is actually done by the Cabal as well. And this was done just to see if the normies would notice it, and if they notice it, how would they respond to it? How much chaos and corruption can they cause through the transgender movement? Now, as I spoke about in my video on transgenderism, there is somewhat of a normal percentage of this attachment, if you will, to a gender that you have had in a previous lifetime. So it's not entirely beyond the scope that somebody would feel a longing to a gender that is not the gender that they were born into. So I think the example I had given is, let's say a woman died before she, in maybe her last lifetime or in many of her lifetimes, she had died before she had had the experience of being a mother, and she always felt a longing. And now in this lifetime, she was born as a male, but she really still feels quite connected to the feminine energy. So she feels like she has been born into the wrong gender. That actually does exist naturally and normally. But what we're seeing right now, where it's this explosion of it in a way where we have never seen it before, that actually has been corrupted by the Cabal. It's an exploitation of something that naturally can occur in people, but it has been taken over and corrupted energetically to where now they are actively going out and trying to convince people that they are trans. Because here's and I'm going to actually share like a personal story with you guys. So when I grew up with 3 older brothers, youngest girl, only girl, youngest child, only girl. So what do you think I had observed when I was growing up? I had observed, a lot of sports. My brothers were being, if they weren't playing sports, then they were certainly very into, maybe like sports games and things of that nature. The youngest one in the family here, only girl, I'm watching my brothers, so I was very influenced by things of a more masculine nature. I was a tomboy when I was growing up. But now, and that's totally fine. But now in this day and age, if somebody is a tomboy, then the school system or the so-called gender-affirming therapists are going to convince you that no, you're not actually a tomboy. You're actually fae. You are just born with the wrong gender. You're really a boy. So it's corrupted a natural way in which people, especially in a very, very tender age, tender years of your life, where we are very, very confused anyway. We have all of these hormones going through our body, right? It's just such a confusing time. And then on top of that, we're throwing in this sense of maybe not feeling like we belong or we don't belong with our gender. That has been corrupted and exploited. And now it's where people are actually being told it's not, it's not natural and it's not normal to question your identity, which it is. You're questioning your identity because you have the wrong gender. And again, please, as always, take what I say with a grain of salt, take what resonates, leave the rest behind, okay? We're all in this together, guys. Like, we're seriously, I live in the same world as you guys. So we're all in this together. We're all trying to find our way and find our truth and find what resonates with us. And if this doesn't, cool. We can vibe anyway, even if we don't agree on anything, on everything. I mean, we should ideally agree on a few things, but we don't have to agree on everything. Okay. Now they are the most, what did I write here? Wretched. They are the most wretched people in the world because they are also the most bored. And they're also the most powerful, and that is a deadly combination. So, now here's the thing. If you wanted to corrupt people and corrupt them in their entirety, and not just corrupt them through various means, such as making certain laws so you can catch them and then own them energetically, what is one of the best ways that you can corrupt people to their core? Is through their religion. And I'm going to explain what that means because that probably sounds really, really bad right around now. So what's the best way to control people? It's to control what they think and what they believe. And that is the ultimate power and control. And if you were team dark side and you were a lower, darker, denser energy as it is, then anything that you touch, so to say, will be of that same lower, darker vibration. So how would that then manifest? First and foremost, telling people that they have been born being sinners. It's this idea of original sin. It's telling people if they don't baptize their child and their child dies, their child isn't going to go to heaven. It's even just this crazy notion and this crazy idea that we're all actually babies that can't do shit, that babies are born being sinners. Okay, interesting, one would say. How about also this idea of telling women that because of their actions, they were kicked out of heaven, right? Because they were convinced by the snake to eat from the tree of life. We are now all kicked out of heaven. And then to add insult to injury, we will always have painful childbirth. God damn it. Blame the woman for that. Okay. Interesting and notable, one could say. So some of these ideas is a way to assure and guarantee that people are going to be kept in a low vibration because they are told or they are taught in school through the implementation of these ideas that we are sinners. We are born in sin. And if you're Jewish, like I am, God damn it, my childbirth was painful because of Eve, because she ate from the tree of life. That bitch. Okay, a little, you know my videos have a little snark. All right. Now, another notable thing that was shown to me was medieval times, which is that during, there's no way I could have gone back through like every notable time period. Just certain ones were shown to me. This is one of them. I'm not saying like this is the only time period that this applied to. This is the one that was shown to me. Which is that during medieval times, only royalty was taught to read and write. But during that time period, everyone had to go to church. So you had entire congregations that were going to church, could not read the words in their prayer book. What do you think was happening? They were being told how to pray to God. They were being told what to believe in their connection to God. There was no and especially during that time, you were considered a heretic and you would have been killed if you didn't believe and you didn't worship exactly the way that you were told to worship and to believe exactly what you were told to believe. So therefore, here's another example of how religion has been used to cause corruption, which is how many people throughout history have been killed because of religious beliefs. So we have Bloody Mary, right? Not the drink. Mary, Queen of Scots, who had killed how many people because they were of the wrong faith? You had Hitler, who killed how many? Not just Jews. Yes, he did kill Jews as well. But it was anyone that was considered an undesirable. That is so counter to what God would do. God doesn't look at you like you're undesirable or you're less than because you have a disability or because you're a gypsy. It's completely disconnected and devoid of godliness. But this has been used as an excuse through the years to, first of all, again, as I had shared with you before, lowest, densest energy, with this idea that no matter what they own is never going to be enough, and therefore wanting to depopulate the world. What better way to depopulate the world than through the corruption of religion, by saying if you're of the wrong faith, you're going to get killed? Because it's, again, all connected. We do not live in a vacuum. And here's also the thing. So again, I'm going to go back to this idea of what was shown to me during like the Middle Ages, which is where, because anyone that was not an elite or of royalty could not read or write, they had to outsource their sense of autonomy to a priest. They can't even read what's in the prayer book, so they just have to go off of what the priest tells them. And they were therefore then disconnected from their own internal guidance system. And another thing that was shown to me, this is pretty wild. Even the stories of Moses and Mohammed speaking with God is a way to seed this idea of discontent. And what I mean by that is, maybe discontent is the wrong word. It's a value system. You're a lower value than these men because they could commune with God and you can't. But then it's even worse. If you can, what are we then told in modern day times? You're crazy. You're not talking to God. First of all, it's who the fuck are you? Right? You're not a Moses. You're not a Muhammad. You're less than them. So you can't commune with God. But if you claim you are communing with God, you're fucking crazy. You're certifiable. We're going to put you in a mental institution and we're going to pump you full of drugs that are going to then numb you out and shut down the natural abilities that you have to connect to the divine. This is another example of how religion has been used to corrupt. Okay? Here's another one, another wild one. So even the story of Jesus having magic and walking on water, right? And just like it was said that Moses had magic, but we don't have magic today. Again, it's a way of saying we don't have magic because we're less than them. And talking about Jesus, Jesus was a Palladian human hybrid. How do we know? Because Jesus was divinely conceived. He was conceived through Palladian coming down and inseminating Mary. But here's the thing. How has that then been corrupted in modern day time as well? Which is, there are women who have come forth and have said that they have conceived divinely as well, or they were inseminated by an extraterrestrial. And what does society tell them? Again, it's either you're fucking crazy or you just slept with somebody that you don't want to admit that you slept with them. So that's why you're saying, so do you see how it's just a corruption? Jesus was the first actual Palladian human hybrid, but he was not the last. And this continues to go on now. But that further has been corrupted with this idea that you're fucking crazy. No, you didn't divinely conceive anything. Not that they said that about Jesus, that they're saying that about anyone who claims it now. Or stop lying, you slept with your ex-boyfriend and you just don't want to admit it. So everything is done in a way to cut down or disconnect us from some sort of divinely connection that we already have. All right, let me see where I'm going to skip to next. So yeah, religion has been corrupted, and this has all been done by design with this idea to get people to think that they were born sinners, and because they were not of the favored class, or not royalty, or not elite, that therefore they could then not formulate their own connection to God. They had to outsource their connection to God through a priest or a rabbi or somebody of that nature. And that if we didn't, the way it's coming in right now is that if we didn't religion the right way, like if we didn't abide by all the laws of religion, then we were told that we don't actually have a relationship with God. And this, swear to fucking God, this has actually been implied in, and I told you I'm an equal opportunity. I'm going after all religions. This has actually been said in my religion, that it was tried with this positive spin, but it was not in any way like really that way. It was basically like God has told you as a Jew what his love language is, and he's telling you what he needs to feel connected to you. So you have to do exactly what is said to be connected to God. And I call bullshit. We're always connected to God, right? It's again, you're in the garden, your phone is being powered through solar power. You have to do nothing to be connected to God. You naturally already are. Okay. Now, let's talk about some other things as well. Which this is where my guides were keeping me up late at night and just whispering into my ear all of these things. So it might not be as quite concise and like assuming that you believe the beginning part was concise, but the rest of it might not be quite as concise as the beginning part, because this is where a whole lot of interesting stuff started to come in, okay? So first and foremost is that I'm going to debunk a couple of things. And one of them pertains to my religion, okay? Which is, as a Jew, what are we told? That we are the chosen people. Have you heard that? I'm just curious, if you're not Jewish, how does that make you feel? I'm going to imagine that doesn't make you feel good. I'm going to imagine that makes you feel less than. Might that be by design? So I'm going to debunk this first and foremost, and I'm going to say there is no such thing as a chosen people. That is completely inaccurate. It is completely inaccurate because, guess what? Spoiler alert, we're all equal in the eyes of God. We're all his children. We're all divinely connected. Unless you're in the Cabal and then you've stepped away from God. And then, I'm not speaking for you. But anybody else that is not a Cabal member, you just go out into that garden with your cell phone and your solar-powered cell phone charger, your phone will charge. You're already always connected to the divine. There is no chosen people. This has been told as a method to, first of all, create division and separation and to plant seeds in the other groups that are so-called not chosen, that they are somehow less than, and it must be true because God even said so. So let's debunk that right now. We're all chosen by God because we're all his children. first and foremost. All right, here's another one that came to me. Since it's not my religion, I can't say I can debunk it, right? Like, I can speak about my religion and I can be like, no, that's not true. But I would never be so arrogant as to believe I could speak for you and your religion. I'm just going to say that this is something that was shown to me, but I'm not going to flat out say I'm debunking it. Which is this idea that priests must not marry and must abstain from sex to remain a child of God. And this was shown to me also as, again, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. This is backwards because we are all already children of God, and we need not sacrifice anything else to be. You're already a child of God. You don't have to sacrifice anything to remain a child of God. We're all his children. And this is my opinion. This is the 2% that's opinion. First of all, this is going to have priests remain one-dimensional and to not experience the full spectrum of life. It is literally a sacrifice that they are making. And what did I say about the Cabal? That the Cabal, because they are of a lower, denser energy, how do they bring the energy of Satan down? Is through sacrifice. Does it always have to be of a little human nature or of an animal nature? Or is it any level of extreme sacrifice that one may have? Why is it that a priest has to choose between the calling and giving their life in service to God versus the fulfillment of their soul and the full spectrum of the experience that they can experience through marrying and having their own children? Again, that was my own personal opinion, and I told you I would be very, very clear in sharing what was my personal opinion. That was one of them. Now, another thing that I just want to say is that another way that the Cabal has messed with religion and corrupted it is through first of all of the holidays, and as well as specific notable dates on a calendar, which is first and foremost, and again, very, very notable because today I actually believe is the spring equinox, which is the beginning of the zodiacal new year, which is not actually January 1st. The actual new year starts in springtime, not wintertime. There's so much to say about this alone. But first and foremost, I'm just going to say that there's so much evidence to support this. It's insane. So why is April 1st called April Fool's Day? And this is because there was a concerted effort to move our understanding of what New Year actually was from, let's say, April 1st to January 1st. And why was it called April Fool's Day? Because if you were going around and you were saying to anybody on that date, Happy New Year, they would call you a fool for believing that that was the New Year, because the New Year is actually back in January. You're a fucking fool. April Fool's Day, you're a fool because you think that today is actually New Year's. No, it's not. It's back in January. Now, just from an energetic point of view, what actually makes the most sense to go into the new year? In the dead of winter, where nothing even grows, or in springtime when there are buds on the trees and there is evidence of a new beginning. So, first and foremost, what we celebrate as New Year's is not actually New Year's. New Year's is actually like around this time right now, April 1st, let's say, or maybe even it's today, which is the spring equinox. That is one thing that they have messed with. And energetically, it has very, very much messed people up, because if you have ever tried to implement a New Year's resolution, there's like a 98% chance it's going to fail. Why is it going to fail? Because it is energetically not aligned with the time of year that is supporting initiatives and new beginnings. Because again, back in the dead of winter, back in fucking January, where no one's leaving their house, you're doing your thing and you're running home, right? Let's say I want to become a runner this year. Really? Good fucking luck with that. Where you're running? To a gym? All right, you're going to freeze your ass off going to the gym to try to run around. Okay, yeah, sure. My New Year's resolution is I want to garden this year. Really? In January? Good fucking luck with that. The elements don't support that. So it was very much corrupted and messed with intentionally to mess with the energetic component behind supportive elements designed to allow us to create new beginnings for ourselves. That's first and foremost. Then another thing is they have corrupted it by saying that tarot and astrology is all the devil's work, even though kings throughout all of history have been using astrology for anything that they wanted to do. Like if they're launching a war, they wanted to choose the most astrologically favorable time to do it. And as I had shared before, magic is literally in the Bible. Moses did magic. Jesus did magic. There's probably a ton of other people who have done magic. It's written in the Bible. So to now turn around and be like, there's no such thing as fucking magic, or you can't commune with God, even though our ancestors communed with God, it's all to energetically disable us. They've also corrupted a lot of the religious ceremonies that are done, and they have turned them into satanic rituals. I'm not going to go that much into this because this is something, so here's the thing. I'm either going to talk about something if I've channeled it or if I have a strong enough opinion to support it. I don't have that much of an opinion on this, so that takes out one of the two. And the second one is I have not channeled it beyond the scope of understanding it has been corrupted through the actual religious ceremonies that are being done today. But they have been corrupted, they are pagan, or they are completely satanic as a whole. Okay, then what else do I have for you guys? Let me go back here. So some things I did actually jump around from. Religion is a great way to cause division among people. And this is what I had touched on before, but what better way to have this idea of killing people than because they are actually observing the wrong religion? How many religions have also called for the killing of other members of a different religion? If you are going to them and you're saying, for example, like, you have to convert to my religion or I'm going to kill you. Again, that's not God-oriented. That's not God-oriented even a little bit. God would never call for you to kill somebody in his name. Again, we're all God children. God doesn't want his children killed. And especially not in his name. So that's another way that it's been corrupted. And here's another thing. Yes, this is going to be very controversial. I mean, I'm sure everything in this video has been. But the entire idea of religion actually usurps people's free will, because we are being told how to live, what to believe, and how to have a relationship with God. That's usurping your free will. That is also undermining our own ability to connect to the divine, which again, as I've said, we're always already connected to. So, does this then mean that religion serves no purpose other than to keep man down? And the answer is no. Of course not. And here's why. First and foremost, Earth is where all of our souls have come to have experiences that we cannot have anywhere else. Religion actually plays a part of that. And here's why. So after I've spent 59 minutes and 40 seconds leading up to this whole explanation of how the Cabal has completely corrupted religion and our understanding of it, I'm also going to end this video by saying that doesn't mean that religion doesn't serve a purpose. Because again, what better way to create contrast in our experiences in the world than through the experience of religion? And how does religion create contrast? It is creating some level of contrast in the way in which, first of all, we might want to go out into the world, right? We might want to have homicidal instincts. But does that mean we should act on it? Does that mean we should act on it when there is actually one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not kill? So for someone that is religiously inclined, it is a way of creating contrast between their, if you will, homicidal instincts and with their connection to religion. Another way in which it's going to create contrast is in the way in which our experiences play out through that religion, with the way that it either resonates with us or it doesn't resonate with us. And then therefore that will cause an evolution of our soul through the contrast. That's also, again, going to create the evolution of the homicidal soul, because they are going to evolve, let's say, past their desire for the homicidal instincts, or they will find a way to rein in their homicidal instincts so they do not act on it because it conflicts with their religious ideology. So it will lead to an evolution of that soul. That will apply to any number of things connected to religion that is not, let's say, so quite dramatic of a homicidal nature. But through this contrast is going to create opportunities for us to explore different facets of ourselves. And we can ask ourselves questions such as, do I agree with this particular thing? And why may I agree with it? And why may I not agree with it? It is also a fantastic tool for us to discover ourselves and to discover our own sense of autonomy through religion, which is, first of all, something like, and again, I'll share a personal experience I have had, which is, if you want to talk to God, here's a Jewish prayer book. You have to say these words if you want to commune with God, because otherwise, I'm laughing because actually now it even just through my own ears sounds ridiculous. Otherwise, God won't be able to understand you. God only understands these particular words. So if you want to commune with God, say these words. Otherwise, God won't hear you. Or if he hears you, it's going to be jumbled. Let me assure you, God hears you perfectly fine, whether or not you're speaking words in a book that was given to you and was told implicitly that if you don't say these words, God won't hear you. Again, corruption. Now, I'm also going to say that there is a vibrational component in certain words, in religious texts. So it's not to say that those words that we are being told to say to commune with God is the only way, because again, it's not, but I'm going to say that on a vibrational level, those words are high vibration. So it's not a waste to say those words, because you are, in essence, creating a higher vibration environment around you through the expression of those exact words. So it's not a complete loss. It is a corruption, but it's not a complete loss, because you are going to elevate the environment in which you are in through saying those words and the vibration that is encapsulated in them. I'm also going to say that my yoga guru, who was not affiliated with any religion, did actually say if you are feeling uninspired, if you are ever feeling disconnected from God, go to a church and sit in the church, because there is a high vibration that is in it. So you will have that experience, whether or not you are using the approved words. You can connect to God. But you will also benefit different benefits. I really need to read a thesaurus, and I need to brush up on my A+ vocabulary here. But it is through the experience of going into a high vibration location, such as a church, that you will experience a divine connection. Anyway, regardless, irrespective. And you can also, you can challenge yourself through religion as well, and through the questioning of the things that do not resonate with you. And why does this not resonate with me? So it will again unfold certain facets and parts of ourselves that we would not otherwise have connection to. It also provides us the opportunity to explore concepts such as goodness and purity, or the notion, conversely, of what impurity. So what makes somebody impure? What is an impure representation of something? And we can also explore concepts of honesty and truth. And do we need actual commandments to keep us in line? So yes, I would say probably if you have homicidal instincts, you probably do need one of the commandments to keep you in line. But it's a way of allowing yourself to grow beyond the so-called limitations that are doled out according to religion. Can you still be a good person even if you don't go to church? Can you still be a good person even if you don't go to synagogue? So it gives people the opportunity to explore themselves in a different way when they are, for example, not participating in regular religious activities. And then we can also, we're given this opportunity to decide, what do I want to keep, if anything? What gets left behind, and who gets to decide that? I'm going to end with this, and here's why. Because up until now, it's not been us who has made the decisions. It has been your priest, your religious teacher. Any number of those people get to decide what makes us good and what makes us worthy, depending on the amount of our participation in these religious ceremonies. So in the past, it has not been us who has made that decision. But they still affect us, just like with politics and politicians, that decisions are being made on our behalf. They still affect us even though they have not been our decisions. So I want to end with this, which is who gets to decide. What makes you a good, pious person? And what are the criteria for that? We get to decide that. And not have that thrust upon us by the very people that have corrupted all of the institutions that have decided those things for us and around us. So, as always, guys, I hope that this has not been too controversial. I hope that you no longer, I hope that you still are happy that you're here. I hope that my content is still bringing different information to you that is thought-provoking and that is allowing you to explore your relationship with the divine in a perhaps new, fresh, and exciting way. And as always with everything, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And if you have watched this entire video through and the only thing that resonated with it is me saying, take what resonates and leave the rest behind, i.e. Faye, nothing in this video resonated except you saying, I can leave what doesn't resonate behind, I'm okay with that too. And as always, my intention with this is to bring thought-provoking information to you. And lastly, to stay in the high vibration.